such an asshole.
So I got a lengthy but a well-written request here, so I'll read through it and then I'll go through the thoughts. Good morning, Aaron. Can you give me a quote on a video response to this request I've been holding for a while? You have been holding while you have been writing your new book. I'm interested in your take, given your research in A World Without Men. Link below. I was listening to a podcast regarding future demographic decline, talking about how men were removing themselves from society, and the guest mentioned a statistic that after the Mongol invasion of Europe, there were towns in Eastern Europe that reported a ratio of 1 male for 27 females, and how those towns were raided into non-existence or the communities were abandoned. I enjoy history as a hobby and started digging. It seems that when the male-female ratio of a society flips too hard, usually due to high rates of death due to conflict, you see three different things happen. So scenario one, this is the United States post-Civil War, 600,000 deaths. Who fought to free the slaves? Oh, it was America that did that too. 600,000, just want to point that out. The Republicans did that too? No. Really? 600,000 deaths in the Civil War, mainly male, and especially in the South. Male wages sharply increased, leading to men marrying earlier. Male mean age of marriage dropped from 26.6 in 1860 to 25.9 in 1870. Per census data, 1860 male-female ratio was 105 to 100. And in 1880, it was 102 to 100. All right, so for those of you who don't know the Civil War, I know you went to the public schools with Democrat teachers. 1861, 1865 was the Civil War. Many of these families moved west into the continental expansion post-war and became land rich and led to prosperity and stability for those families or clans who were able to survive. There were also large numbers of poverty-stricken single women, which led to situations like baby farms, which was an early form of daycare for the working class single women. All right, so that's scenario one. I'll simplify because I had to read through this several times. Civil War, a lot of guys die because men now are coming at a premium and society needs them. Women are happy to marry. They also needed men back in those days. There was no welfare state. Men formed families, financially successful, legacies, not dynasties. What's the word I'm looking for? Not clans. But they had lots of family, big kids, moved out, financial success. Post-World War II, Germany, post-World War II, due to a large number of dead and wounded, per Rudiger Overman's research, approximately 7.4 million dead and unknown wounded. Male to female ratio in 1950 was 86 to 100 in Germany. That's steep. In addition, many of the men had life-altering disabilities and couldn't work to support families. So from 1940 to 1950, the female labor force participation rate in Germany increased from 24 to 33%, while at the same time, there were millions of refugees leaving. This led to more social programs to keep women in the workforce, so that now their participation rate is 56.4% as of 2023, with a ratio of 97 to 100. Really? There's still less men in Germany than women? By 3%, that's interesting. Male labor force participation rate is 67% in that year. All right, so scenario two, a lot of guys die. Women got to come in and work. And the government then has to do some kind of social programs to get women to stay working to make up for the lost men. Although that World War II is quite some time ago, so I don't know what the labor force participation rate today has to do with that. I think that'd be more with modern day feminism and Westerners' addiction to materialism, where Becky needs her SUV and fuck the children, outsource them. I need a master's degree. And don't you dare suggest I raise my children. Do you hear what you said? Don't raise your children. Historians are going to look back at this and then say, yeah, did you know that when people refuse to raise their children, that's shocking. That's when society started collapsing. But Becky needed her Range Rover that day. Anyway, scenario two, women come in and pick up the slack with policy support from the government. 3, post-Soviet Russia. Due to a nearly 20-year economic depression after the 1989 collapse, the Russian economy went through turmoil and poor government policy choices. The long-term economic depression has led to high levels of risk-seeking behavior for young men and middle-aged men, such as violent crime or unhealthy lifestyle choices, like alcoholism, leading to men dying over 10 years earlier than women. The male-to-female ratio declined from 1989, 101 to 1, to 2010 to 92 out of 100, and now in 2024, 87 out of 100. Though that's after what, 3 years of the war with Ukraine. So going back to your previous examples, war is affecting that. But yes, you're at the drinking yourself to death and depression because your country has kind of failed or the economy has failed. That you see they're going from 101 to 92. That's significant. And then 92 to 87. I'd say that's more due to the war. This risk-seeking behavior has also reduced the number of men considered marriageable by women, and the new births have collapsed. 2024, Russian births are 8.4 births per 1,000, and an estimated fertility of 1.45 per woman. I also think Russia has the highest rates of divorce in the quasi-Western world, as well as outmigration has sharply increased, especially young people, with 2020 to 2024 estimates being around 800,000 left. Yeah, that's probably due to the war. All that as preamble for my question. Given the high levels of sedation in the male population, but also high levels of productivity in the workforce, mainly because of automation and not individual effort, like more feet plowed, which future do you see for the United States? 1, highly productive men being rewarded with higher wages, and then relationships, which leads to concentrated wealth, intact family units, but poverty in the non-productive and single mother households. See Civil War America. You see some of that where the men, perhaps only I see it. I'll admit there's some selection bias here. I see some of that happening. And to be perfectly honest, all three you're going to see some of it happening because we're a population of 320 million and declining. I've seen it with young men who followed our advice, kept their nose clean, majored in the right thing, didn't piss away their money, and they are very highly productive, wealthy men. And then they're on the way, like, yeah, I'd like to find a wife now. And that's usually why they're reaching out to me. I can't find a wife. I'm like, you're going to have to go overseas. It's short version. See the previous video. So I see some of that, but that's not the majority. The majority of youngish men, let's just say 40 and under, are more of a Russian variety, completely demoralized. Not so much by economics, though that too, with inflation. And I love how you remember all the free shit you got during the disease. Remember your stimmy checks? Oh, what's prices look like now? Oh, can't afford it. So there's economic demoralization, again, akin to Russia. I would also say there is sexual demoralization, where women are not men's cheerleaders now. And that'd be okay if it was just quiet. Women are antagonistic. Not all, of course, but they are antagonistic. They are berating and they are angry. And that is a demoralizing factor. And it speaks directly to demographics, because if the, it's one thing I'm trying to think. The economy demoralizing you is one thing. The opposite sex by which future children are born is demoralizing you. That's a bottleneck. It's like, oh, geez, okay, that's really gonna, we just talked about how girls are going to do the 4B movement. No sex. Like, okay. Gee, I wonder, Lawrence, I wonder why there aren't having any children over there in the United States. Higher Civil War. All right. So anyway, I see a little bit of this, but not as much as the Civil War. So it's not number 1. 2, higher permanent labor force participation rate for women and social programs to support them, but lower overall standards of living because societal productivity suffers due to the lower overall labor force participation rate and high inflation. See post-World War II Germany. Out of the 3 scenarios you present to me, I believe that is the most accurate one that describes the United States. What will happen is what is happening now, because it's true. Now, how we got to what the theory that you're posing, and it's not a theory, it's true. We have had a metaphorical war the sex war, that has, in other words, metaphorically killed off men who are no longer going to be participating uh, in society, in the marriage market, in demographic replacement. They're not going to have kids because they've metaphorically been killed. In real wars, they were killed, right? And now you're saying, well, what's happening here? This metaphorical war, instead of being killed, it's being killed by demoralization to non-participation. And I would say this is the more accurate one that's happening here because the men, for whatever reason, are gone. They're not participating in the labor force anymore. All right. Or if you go and you read A World Without Men, I go through not only men's labor force participation rates going down, but they're dropping the number of hours they're working. It's a significant drop in overall labor force productivity. And if we wish to keep up our standards of living, yes, women have to come in and make up for that. I don't believe, I think the analogy falls apart to a certain extent because I don't believe the primary motivating factor in driving women into the labor force was men's absence. I think it was clever marketing in Americans starting in, what was it, the 20s? Mass production. I also believe the Industrial Revolution made it so women could work white collar jobs. The creation of white collar jobs was like, oh, okay, women can work now. It's also human nature. You want to have more money as opposed to less. But then, of course, men don't want to work as much because, well, why not be lazy? But I would say after the Industrial Revolution, on par with that, or maybe a very close second, would be feminism, where like we want to do our own thing. And I'm not necessarily against that concept, and we should be treated equally in the economy. I'm like not against that concept either. And we're going to replace you because we make better men than men themselves. Got a problem with that. But by all means, try it out, baby. I think that's a huge push because that's pure indoctrination. That you see that all the most important thing for a woman is to go into debt for an advanced degree and work and pay taxes. That right there, I'm like, okay, and buy handbags, huh? Right? Let's just complete the whole thing because she ain't worth shit. You got me master's degree and she got a job. She makes six figures. That woman ain't worth shit until she buys a handbag for $70,000, right? Don't forget the handbag part. So I think that's another reason women are working more. And I would say a distant, what are we on, third or fourth, is that they kind of have to. You see that more with the single moms kind of deal. And women otherwise financially impaired. Typically, most young women when they get out of college, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you're financially handicapped a bit when you come out of college, as everyone is, because you have student loan debts. And I think in ye olden days, the man would have taken care of you, married you at 23, and da 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 da. Well, no, you got to play imaginary girl boss and tell men to fuck off until you're 30. Like, oh, I kind of like, babies now we make. Hoyle. So in order to pay off your debts, pay off your car loan, live the girl boss lifestyle, women are forced to work. And I think that, so in other words, their consumptive lifestyle. And that's what, I'm sorry, ladies, most of your college degrees are consumption luxury items. They're not investments. You paid for the college experience to go major in whatever fluffy bunny history studies or whatever. It was a very expensive luxury treat, the college experience. And now they got to pay back that debt. They have to live the lifestyle. You men are guilty of this too. I got to get the car, bro. So, and there ain't no husband there to marry them or support them. So women have to work. So I think women's labor force participation rate went up for that. So 2 is what I think is most accurate. I'd also say post World War II Germany is more reflective of the modern day America with the sex war because I think the kill ratio is about the same. The post World War II Germany said 86 to 100, so 14% of the male population was dead. I'd love to see World War One though. I think it's even worse than that. Where you made the right point. Okay, that's just killed. What about disabled and can't work and all that? Right. There's another, what, 7%? So you're in your 70s. 1 in 4 men were gone from the potential marriage market. I would say that's probably very similar here. I'd say at least 1 in 4 men are metaphorically killed by the sex war and just completely demoralized out of it. Or, as you pointed out in Russia, refugees going overseas. But that's so far. And then women have come in for the vacuum of men in the labor force. But in Germany, it was like, we got to rebuild the country. Like, this is no, we are in dire, we need women. Nowadays, it's for other ulterior motives, like really, I'm not joking, handbags and college degrees. Those, you get the pie chart: handbags, college degrees, and cars they can't afford. That's why women have to work now, as opposed to the past, because they weren't going to have a husband today. So I guess maybe it was more demand driven today than, like, they demanded material things as opposed to supply driven. Like, we need to get society back in line. Oops, what the hell is this? God almighty. And then third, outmigration of people, while the semi-productive and non-productive live in poverty and with mainly transitory and transactional interpersonal relationships with low birth rates and decline economic standards. See Russia post-Soviet collapse. There's some of it there too. You got your passport bros, they're going out. All right, they're going away. And now we really are a transactional interpersonal relationships with the declining birth rate. Yeah, I think there's some of that here too. He better this and dinner and okay. Well, and I'm not a big expert on Russian and Slavic and post-Soviet cultures, but those women are pretty mercenary. You look at where most of the marriage scam artists, that was Ukraine and Russia. I had a buddy hoodwinked 4 times. I'm like, how many times you got to learn this, man? You could just pay him to have sex with you. You don't need to marry him, for God fucking sake. I think because of bad economic times in Russia, and they were bad, and I think the loss of their kind of country, the Soviet Empire, there was Russia and a bunch of other satellite states, and they kind of all broke up, but there was still Russian culture and all that. But you still lost, like, we were the Soviet Empire. We're the second best country in the world. And we almost beat the Americans. Not really. Oh, fuck, man. Ronald Reagan just came in there and beat your fucking asses. Beat your fucking asses. But losing your culture, what you were built up to believe was this great thing for 70 years. And then, then bad economic times on top of it. And then, the men were getting drunk. I could see that. Like, our men are getting drunk and high and whatever else. Well, like, we can't find marriageable men. All right. At least you could at least say about the forward Soviet Empire women is that they remained hot, because there was no welfare state. There was no affirmative action. There was no gimme that. There was not a strong economy. So there's a little bit there, but no, the main one I would say is number 2. I'd say both in terms of severity of men lost to the marriage market, dating or child reproduction market, and then also in terms of women's participation rate in the economy. It's more reflective of that. But yeah, that's what there are and then surprise, birth rates are going down. Oh, it's like, well, yeah, you can't metaphorically kill men and then expect them to be around. It's just, I've often wondered that, like, what if we had, like, pro-America, we like men, instead of antagonists and haters, what if men had cheerleaders? What if women were to switch their roles, and instead of admonishing men and hating on them and treating them like shit and making laws against hiring them, what if women were encouraging and supporting? I'm not saying they're all lining up and they're going to give away free sex as a moral, but what really, think about, what if women were cheerleaders of men in the United States instead of our sworn adversarial enemies, created in the cauldron of the public schools and feminist colleges? What would happen? What would that be like? And so whether you got killed by a bullet or a bunch of people saying we hate your guts and we're going to make it hard for you to succeed and da, 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 in either case, these men are metaphorically KIA. They are victims of the sex war, and your consequences are could be very similar to real wars that you pointed out, demographically speaking. So good observation. It is a curious puzzle to think about because though we have not had a conflict that removes a large number of men from the economic and relationship pools, sedation plus red pill plus self-indulgence has removed so many that somewhere between 1/3 and 2/3 of men reporting they aren't seeking or have no interest in seeking relationships. Yep. Yep. It, it I don't know where I will you people sounding the alarms about the birth rates are declining, the birth rates are declining. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. Go tell women to start treating men nice again. Tell women to start being hot again. Oh my God, we can't do well. Then stop complaining about. I'm sorry, the birds and the bees work a very precise way. I always joke on Twitter sometimes when they're talking about economic. I don't know how to get the birth rate. So, oh my God, why is marriage declining? I say, make women thin again. And I know that's cheap and short. It's also true. And then it can't just be thin. You need to be nice. We're not going to solve it. It's not. There's no reasoning people out of this. Everyone's committed to their corner. I'm just going to wait for there to be fine. You're going to have a Zimbabwe moment where everyone gets $1 million government check every month, but it don't buy you shit. And then the government's going to collapse and there won't be cops. And then we're going to learn this all over again. Be like, oh, is that why the ancients had rules? Is that why, if you look whether it's the Torah, the Quran, or the Bible, they got their mysticism and the gods and everything, but they got a lot of rules in those books. They all kind of seem to be similar. Wonder why that is. 2/3 of men, though they are working to self-subsist, it could be seen as society having lost. Well, yeah, and here's another thing. Okay, these men are still there and they're working. How many of them have gone galt? I know this one guy, he's a young cop, and they keep begging him to work overtime. I said, why don't you work overtime? I don't know how to work overtime. I don't know. I got enough. Nope. I would say specifically in the United States, and it's not mentioned in any of your third scenarios because it wasn't historically so. The absurd difficulty we make it for young people to get jobs in this country. Trump would seem like the nicest, kindest, most leftist Democrat compared to me if I was president. They'd just be like it'd be like the Goldfinger meeting where I'd have all the presidents and CEO of the 500, and I'm just like, we're doing it this way. I'm gonna click the button, and you're fed to the sharks. That's another thing. So, guys, they're just getting by on impulse power until they have a reason to live. Until you give them something happy and joyful and pleasant to look forward to, and give them a path and the ability to do it. Not just, well, you got to get a master's degree and talk to this HR bitch who just doesn't like the color of your shoes, but we're not going to tell you. Like, no, we don't have time for that. I mean, my fucking disability check. Why is not working? Oh my God. Make women thin and pleasant again. We don't know you sex. You know, we're going on a sex drive. Fuck, you guys are horrible. Can't figure out why the men aren't working. Can't imagine why they're rubbing one off to the Nebraska, where they grow corn. Fully capable. I lost my place. Although they are working to self-subsist, it could be seen as society having lost those men as they aren't generating excess production anymore. Yep, they're metaphorically dead. They were KIA. It would be a little bit of dishonorable, I guess, or anti-valor. What if we got like a a war ribbon or a campaign ribbon. What do the military call, like a campaign patch or something? And we just gave it all every guy under the age. Boomers, you don't get this. So it'd have to be like, let's say 55 and under. You got like a patch or a war ribbon. Like I served in the sex war. The sex war ribbon, right? Is it a ribbon? You don't get a patch. The sex war campaign. Those men, as they aren't generating excess production anymore without a family unit to support, there is no need. Yep. In the book of Numbers, I show how men could get by on about like 20% their production. We just, those pictures, ladies, where it's like the TV and the rollout mattress. You girls like, oh my God, men can really live like that. And we can do it all day. And I'm like, imagine you get your house in Edina and all the fucking shit and all the cars and you shrink it down to a TV and a rollout mattress. That's how much your economy can shrink, and men will just be fine. Women in history have migrated or compromised on relational status in the event that men were unavailable or undesirable from a provider's standard. With the rise of feminism and white-collar work and the welfare state, and women now fully capable of providing for themselves, Western women now have begun to cast about trying to find men. Western women now have begun to cast about trying to find men to form relationships with, mainly during the Epiphany stage, and seem to have put themselves into a corner where Western men are undesirable, foreign men too traditional, and the higher class and rich men, regardless of cultural origin, are emotionally unavailable. Yeah, you cannot, humans are not switches. You just don't flip the switch. Talk about this and how not to become a millennial. Like, ladies, you're millennial men, you got them forever. Those are your men. And I talk about how it's akin to a nutmeg tree, and I believe nutmeg trees take 50 years to grow and bear fruit. I could be wrong. It's a long time. Humans are the same way. It's 18 years just to get them to the point they can vote, and they vote very poorly. Can't even support themselves. And you treat a group of people a certain way until they're 25. There's no, oh, we were wrong, flip the switch, now come back. And women's relationship with men in the West has been playful, mind games, no, go away, adversarial. We don't need, it hasn't been good. This has not been a warm and welcoming, and you can invest and trust in us, right? It's not a cheerleader. It's, we don't like you that much. you fail. And then you look at the past, like, and we're gonna divorce you. Half the time we're gonna divorce you. It ain't gonna work out. And then women hit the epiphany stage. So what is that? 30 years. Now I want to find a guy. No, how you treated men, at least for the past 20 years in your specific generation, let alone how society has treated them. They don't just say, oh, okay, I knew you were kidding. The epitomal example of that is a single mom comes up like, hey, how you doing? Like, well, you got kids. Well, it doesn't matter. Like, no, actually, it kind of does matter. Well, you're just a piece of shit. Well, okay. So you're still not listening to guys. There's no flip a switch, and all of a sudden these soy boy millennial types are now masculine men making $125,000 a year with no student loan debt. It's going to take a while for them to hit the gym, compensate, and get a real skill or degree over their music therapy degree. And so, yeah, it's too late. You're trying to grow a crop of nutmeg trees. You either watered them too much or not at all, or not enough fertilizer or too much, and now you ain't got no nutmegs. You got some trees. They're kind of sad looking, sappy, anemic looking tree, but you ain't got no fruit bearing trees, and you're not going to have fruit bearing trees. It's just like the men died permanently in the actual wars. These men might as well be dead permanently for the sex wars. I know they're alive, but they've planned and invested their life a certain way. It's going to be a long as time before any, So it's over. These guys aren't coming back. You're not going to make up for the loss per generation. Let's say 15 to 20 years that you could have been nice and kind and having kids. But let's also be very clear. I don't think women want that, to be perfectly honest. Again, if we look at polling data, again, which you could find in A World Without Men, an analysis of an all-female economy, they want to have kids, but it's still like when they're in their 30s, it's still ranked number 4. And I got to take them at face value when they poll it. They prefer to have money and a career. That's men are after children. I think they're 5th. But women want to have kids, but not as much. If we look at behaviors and polling, women want to have kids, but not as much as they want to have education, career, and finances. And I can understand the stable finances. That makes a lot of sense. Career, maybe not so much because that's work and paying taxes. But yeah, so there might be some, well, why can't I, if you're used to getting everything you want and then you get the one thing you can't have, whatever, it's not in store. And then you kind of obsess about it, you get pissed off about it. So I could see where women, having it all meant what you could have a full-time, you could be a career, a mother and a wife. And as many of them are starting to find out, you can't have all 3. You could choose 2, but you can't have all 3. And if you've played your life up until you're 30, you're gonna have all 3. It's almost a guarantee you're not gonna. You can have all 3. You just have to start with kids and family early, and then you can move on. But feminists told women not to do that. We were like, okay, we'll do whatever you tell us. Because you're a 73-year-old pissed off baby boomer spinster feminist who just has never had a picture of you smiling. I should take advice from you because you know how to lead a happy life. Put themselves in the yeah, they are in a court. They're the men that they want just aren't here. They could have been different. Like if we raised men to be masculine men and there was none of this Democrat leftist bullshit and we don't need no. And if we actually had real traditional values and men, you'd have some real men to marry, but they're not. There's not enough of those to go around. And there isn't going to be. There is here. Lo, behold, I show you your nutmeg farm you planted for thyself. And it has not one, after 30 years, it has not one nutmeg on any of the hundreds of trees you planted. They're dead. They're dead. They're not coming back. But don't worry, ladies. You got this. Okay? Huh? You didn't need no, right? Whole first chapter. You don't need men. Okay. You don't need men. Oh, that's one thing I was going to say for the client. If you read the book A World Without Men, you're basically going over the 3 choices women have. If I remember correctly, it was you could go back to traditionalism where you can work. It's not like this hard traditionalism, but men are the number one thing in your life. Your family is your number one thing in life. Men go back to the traditional roles. We more or less take over everything again. And you just, like it was in the olden days, women are going to be women and they got their responsibilities in society. Men are men. We're going to do our responsibilities. All right. But you have to give up your freedom, right? You're going to have to, I even say, you're going to have to stay in shape to motivate the men to go do it. You're going to have children so that the men are like, oh, I have children I got to support now. All right. And there's a cost for women in all 3 scenarios. There is no scenario where it's cost free. So you have to give up your freedom. Then we could keep doing what we're doing now, which is a punting and borrowing money and not really sustainable. So women are going to have to work. Okay. So you get to work. That's your freedom. You don't have to deal with men, but your standards of living are going to be shit because you're not really replacing the productivity of the men who have dropped out of the economy. You're just not. You can look at GDP growth rate. It's going down and all, but that's different. That's an economic discussion. And then, so you are going to, what was it? So there's freedom. You got to give that up. There is lower standards of living where we keep doing it now the way we are. And then there is you have to work hard, where you actually replace men one for one or even more. I mean, there's no limit to the amount of work you can do. Where you want to maintain. Okay, that's what it was. You either have to give up your freedom, you have to give up your standards of living, or you have to work just as hard as men. Those are your three costs. And there is no fourth option where sit on ass and get government make work job. Doesn't happen. You either get to work as hard as men to maintain the standards of living and your freedom. You get to not work as hard as men, but you get to maintain your freedom. You don't have to work hard as men, but you suffer a lower standard of living. And then there is you maintain standards of living, but you got to give up your freedom, and you're going to have to help out and service men. Don't care which one you choose. It's your life, ladies. There is no fourth option. All right. So that is a world without men analysis of an all-female economy. Link below. To the chickens, $5. If nothing works, the traditional framework will be the fallback because it works. How much further, Captain? You're going to need a full crash. You're going to, what forces a tradition? Okay, let's go way back in the Ooga Booga days. All right. The cavemen weren't sitting out drawn with sticks in the sand. Hey, we should organize society this way. What forced all traditional relationships, rules, laws is nature. Nature is always trying to kill you. Your body alone needs food. It doesn't live for it. You need to feed it. So you need to go and work. That's a fact. And so over trial and error, we found out, well, men are stronger and faster. So they're going to go do the outside shit. And they're going to go get the meat. They'll fight off the warring tribes and all the other physically demanding stuff, farming. And women will stay at home. And I don't know if women notice this about their bodies, but nature might be trying to tell you something when you have a uterus and boobs with milk in them. I don't know what nature's trying to tell you. I have no clue. Maybe you were built for something. Have no idea. Anyway, and weaker and all that, but more fat reserves to take care of. Don't know what nature's trying to tell you. Have not a clue. But nature is sexist. I can tell you that, those rat bastards. And you take care of the kids, and maybe you gather berries or whatever, and you maintain the home. All right. And that men and women coming together, if you're going to create families, that is how you survived and thrived against nature trying to kill you. That was it. So now it's been however long in humans, especially the Industrial Revolution and technology, we have removed ourselves from nature so far. We've forgotten why we've had these rules and traditions. And we're now like, well, anything for you, lady. No lady in North America must be slightly bothered or annoyed. So now we're rearranging society and saying, oh, no, all has to be equal. All has to be, oh, no, men can have periods. Oh, no, no. Fucking with the engine of economic growth. You're fucking with the fuel, which is female youth and beauty. And you're fucking with the engines, and that's men. Oh my God, GDP per capita, GDP growth is going down. Oh my God. And we could get away. Technology is pretty cool. Yields a lot of economic growth. But if we keep on going down this road where we get to ignore nature and we get to treat one sex gets to treat the other sex like utter shit. And, oh my God, I don't understand why. Why is the economy work? There is a good. Fine, there might be a government, but there's no electricity for them to enforce anything. And then we're like, what's this nature? Why is this saber-toothed tiger trying to kill me? How do we stop the saber-toothed tiger from trying to kill me? I don't understand. Oh, wait, get some guns. Oh, wait, me and all the other Karens said guns were bad. We voted them away. What happened to Karen? I don't know, but there's a really well-fed saber-toothed tiger down in that cave. Did you see him? He had a nice mane of fur. How much further? I don't know. I'm hoping it's after I die, so I don't have to worry about it. And then that'll be a you guys problem. AZX $10. Cappy, I owe you infinity. Joined Navy 2020, traveled the world, lived overseas 4 years. Eastern European, Southeast Asian, and Japanese women night and day better. GI Bill gives me $2,600 a month for rent on top of free school. Outstanding, man. You're doing better than me. Outstanding. Good to hear it. I'm glad your life is good and enjoyable and a lot easier. AZX again, $5. Observation overseas, not 100% solution. If you're a sucker, you'll be played anywhere. You need to be red pill aware to survive, but abroad is 10 times better. Japan, Mexico, and New Zealand. See, Atham that hates Mexico, and every time I've been to Mexico, I'm like, I don't know, I kind of like it here. It's warm, people are nice. I know I'm a tourist, I get it. Wait, having a bunch of women blame you for their problems, accuse you of being part of the patriarchy, you don't like it here? And then having all the institutions saying, yeah, they're right, you men suck. I don't know why. You look back, you're like, how fucking stupid are you people? Like a true emperor has no clothes. Like you dumb motherfuckers. How evil too. Oh, that group over there is the cause of all of our problems. And all the institutions, yeah, they are. Vote for me, buy our product. Men suck. Why aren't the men working anymore? I don't get it. Why are they looking at Nebraska all the time? Because there's thin women with big boobs on. You hate women. You're an objectivist pig. We're gone. All right. A World Without Men, an analysis of an all-female economy. You can find that on Amazon. I think I have it linked below. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.